Evan Hale had always been careful with words. As a human linguist, he knew that even a single mistranslation could change the course of history. But nothing in his training had prepared him for the moment when he would accidentally declare his adoration to an alien princess. The stars shimmered above the docking bay of Vilithara, casting long, silvery shadows across the polished landing platforms. The Aurelian's capital city rose in the distance, its tall crystal towers reflecting light in colors that Evan had never seen before. The planet had a strange, ethereal beauty, unlike anything on Earth. A soft, warm breeze carried a faint fragrance like a mix of honey and fresh rain. Evan took a deep breath, reminding himself that he was here as a representative of humanity, not as a tourist. "Remember," said Captain Alina Torres, the mission commander, as they walked toward the palace gates. "You are the translator. Keep the language clear. Keep the gestures respectful. And whatever you do, don't get distracted by their charm." Evan nodded, although his stomach twisted nervously. "Yes, Captain. I'll be careful." The palace was immense, built from crystal and metal, with towers spiraling like upward flowing waterfalls. Guards in shimmering robes stood at attention along the entrance. Evan could see the faint glow of the royal banners flapping gently in the wind. Each banner carried symbols that seemed alive, shifting subtly as if they were breathing. Inside, the ceremonial hall stretched wider than anything Evan had ever seen. The floor was polished to a mirror finish, reflecting the pale blue light from above. Rows of seats lined the walls, filled with Aurelians whose eyes shimmered with curiosity. Their skin ranged in shades of soft silver and pale gold, and each one had eyes larger and more luminous than a human's. Their voices, even in conversation, carried a musical quality that made Evan's chest tighten with both awe and anxiety. At the front of the hall stood Princess Aurelith. She was taller than most Aurelians he had read about, her form elegant and commanding. Her hair flowed in silvery strands that seemed to catch and reflect the light like liquid moonlight. She wore a robe that shifted color as she moved, ranging from soft lavender to deep indigo. But what struck Evan most was her eyes to luminous pools that seemed to see everything, yet revealed nothing. Evan swallowed hard. He had studied the Aurelian language for months, memorizing every inflection and gesture. He had practiced hundreds of times how to greet the princess correctly. And now, standing before her, he felt his carefully rehearsed words dissolve into panic. The court translator, a small and delicate Aurelian named Valen, stepped forward. "Welcome, human delegation," Valen said in the musical Aurelian tone. "Princess Aurelith awaits your words." Evan's heart pounded. He adjusted his posture and began the greeting in Aurelian, his pronunciation as precise as he could manage. "Honored Princess Aurelith, I bring greetings from the people of Earth. We come with respect, with friendship, and with hope." It was at that moment that his mind went blank. Perhaps it was the nervousness, the alien surroundings, or the gentle way Aurelith's eyes seemed to focus on him, but his carefully memorized speech betrayed him. Instead of saying the final words, he blurted out, "I adore you." The hall went silent. Every Aurelian froze mid-motion, their luminous eyes wide in shock. Evan's face turned red, heat rising to his ears. He wanted to sink through the floor and disappear into some distant corner of the palace. "Did he just say?" one of the court officials whispered to another. Valen's mouth opened and closed, clearly searching for the correct translation, but none came. Evan waved his hands awkwardly, trying to explain himself. No, that's not what I meant. I mean..." But before he could correct himself, Princess Aurelith leaned forward slightly. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, but it reached him clearly, cutting through his panic. "At last," she said. Evan froze. The words made no sense. At last what? At last, he confessed? At last, what? The princess's lips curved slightly, not in a mockery or disdain, but in a small, knowing smile. Evan felt a strange shiver run down his spine. The room seemed to tilt around him, the polished floors and glowing banners fading into the background. As he tried to comprehend what had just happened, Valen stepped forward quickly, attempting to restore order. "Translator error," he said, trying to sound confident. "Human meant greetings." Human is very respectful. Evan wanted to disappear. He stumbled through a corrected greeting, stumbling over every word. Honored Princess, we come with peace and friendship. Sorelli's gaze never wavered. Instead, she inclined her head slightly, as if acknowledging some truth in his words. Whether accidental or not, her presence was calm, but there was an unmistakable intensity in her eyes that made Evan feel both terrified and drawn in. After the formalities, the delegation was led to a side chamber to wait. Evan sat on a crystal bench, trying to calm his racing heart. His hands trembled slightly as he fumbled with the translation device. Captain Torres appeared, her expression a mix of amusement and concern. Evan, she said quietly. Wow, that was not what we rehearsed. I know, Evan whispered, hiding his face in his hands. I didn't mean to say that. Look at me, Captain Torres said, placing a steady hand on his shoulder. You didn't insult anyone. If anything, you might have started something bigger than any of us imagined. Evan peeked at her, skepticism written across his face. Bigger? Captain, she just whispered at last. I've ruined everything, or, Torres said with a smile, you might have uncovered something ancient. Something we don't understand yet. Evan frowned. Ancient? Yes, she said, her voice low. There are stories among the Iralians of a prophecy that a human or someone from outside their world would speak words of truth, an openness to the royal air when the time was right. Maybe you just did. Evan stared at her, trying to absorb the words. A prophecy? Me? He was just a linguist, a translator. He hadn't come here to be part of legends or prophecies. He had come to help humans and Iralians communicate. And now he felt as if the entire weight of a world or several worlds had fallen onto his shoulders. Hours passed in the waiting chamber. Evan barely ate or spoke, replaying the incident over and over in his mind. When Sorelli finally returned to greet the delegation again, she moved with a quiet grace, stopping just before him. Human, she said softly, her voice calm but powerful. Do you know why I said it last? Evan shook his head, unsure of what to say. Because, she continued, her eyes locking onto his. I have waited for someone who can speak without fear. Someone whose words come from the heart, even if by accident. Many have come before you, careful and polished, but they only repeat what is expected. You spoke honestly. Evan blinked. His mind raced. Spoke honestly. By accident. Could it be possible that a single mistake carried more meaning than all his careful studies? Sorelli smiled faintly. Do not worry. You have not ruined anything. You may have started something important. Evan felt a strange mix of relief and confusion. He wanted to ask what she meant, what he had started, but he knew better than to speak out of turn. He simply nodded, unsure if he believed her as the delegation was escorted back to their quarters. Evan could not stop thinking about the princess's words. The glow of Vilithara's city lights seemed brighter now, almost alive, as if the planet itself had acknowledged his presence. He realized that this mission, supposedly a routine diplomatic exchange, was far more significant than he had ever imagined. For the first time since arriving, Evan felt both terrified and exhilarated. He had slipped, said the wrong words, and yet somehow he had opened a door, and somewhere in the depths of Vilithara, Princess Sorelli's whispered words lingered in his mind. At last, and Evan knew that his journey, in the story of two worlds intertwined, was only just beginning. The next morning, the sun, or what humans would call the sun, shone gently across Vilithara, casting golden streaks on the crystal towers. Evan Hale awoke in the delegation's quarters, his mind still tangled with the events of the previous day. The memory of Princess Sorelli whispering at last repeated in his mind like a melody. He could not forget. Breakfast in the delegation hall was quiet. Humans and Iralians shared the space, but conversations were polite, cautious, and filled with curiosity. Evan pushed a plate of soft, nutrient-rich food around, tasting little. His mind was elsewhere, replaying the princess's words, the way she had looked at him, and the strange feeling that he was no longer just a visitor on this world. Captain Torres noticed his distraction. She leaned in, lowering her voice. Evan, do you understand what might be happening? I don't know, Evan admitted. I just said the wrong words by accident. How can that be anything important? Torres gave him a small smile. Maybe it was not an accident. Or maybe, for reasons we do not understand, it matters more than you think. Before Evan could respond, Valen appeared at the edge of the hall. The delicate Aurelian's expression was calm, but his luminous eyes held something like urgency. Translator Evan, he said, Princess Aurelith requests your presence in the Hall of Records. Evan's stomach tightened. The Hall of Records now? Yes, Valen said, his musical voice calm. There is something she wishes to show you. Evan followed Valen through hallways that shimmered faintly as if alive. The walls reflected soft light, creating moving patterns that made the space feel larger than it really was. Finally, they arrived at a door carved from clear crystal, etched with strange symbols that pulsed gently inside. The hall was vast and filled with ancient scrolls, holographic maps, and floating displays of stars and planets. Light danced across the surfaces, showing centuries of knowledge preserved by the Aurelians. Sorelli stood near a large star map that projected images in 3 dimensions, showing not just Vilithara's system, but the nearby sectors of space. Evan, she said, her voice calm, I'm glad you came. Please, do not be afraid. I don't know why I'm here, Evan admitted, feeling small in the presence of both the princess and the vast knowledge around him. Sorelli gestured to a set of holographic symbols hovering above the floor. These are the records of my people. They tell of our history, our triumphs, and our fears. But there is one story, one prophecy, that has been kept hidden for centuries. Evan stepped closer, curiosity overcoming his nervousness. A prophecy? Yes, Sorelli said, her eyes reflecting the glow of the holograms. It speaks of a time when Vilithara would face a danger it could not overcome alone. And it foretells the arrival of a being from another world who will speak words from the heart, and whose actions will shape the destiny of our people. Evan's heart skipped a beat. A human, like me? Sorelith nodded. Perhaps. Many have tried to interpret the prophecy. Some believed it was symbolic. Others thought it would never come true. But when I heard your words yesterday, I felt recognition. You spoke without fear, without careful calculation. That is what the prophecy speaks of. Evan could hardly believe it. A simple mistake, and suddenly he was part of a prophecy older than human history. He wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. I don't know what to say. Say nothing for now, Sorelli said. Just listen. There's more to understand. She moved toward the star map, and as she did, the projection shifted. Stars moved, forming patterns that Evan had never seen before. This is the map of the Vilitharan sector. Hidden among these stars is a path and ancient route used to protect our people. Only someone with an outsider's perspective can find it. Evan stepped closer, studying the intricate lines. Why me? Sorelith's eyes were steady. Because your mind is not bound by the ways of my people. You see patterns differently. You think differently. The prophecy says that one from beyond our world will come and act when the time is right. Your words were the signal. That is why I whispered. At last, Evan tried to absorb everything. So, what I said, it wasn't just a mistake? Perhaps not, she said softly. Sometimes the truth slips through by accident, and sometimes the universe chooses unexpected ways to fulfill its plans. For the next few hours, Sorelith guided Evan through the Hall of Records. She showed him old scripts and carvings, explaining how Aurelians had long observed humans from afar, curious about their resilience and creativity. Many generations of Aurelians had studied humanity's art, science, and history. They admired qualities they felt their own people had lost: adaptability, courage, and the ability to act in moments of uncertainty. Evan listened in awe. He had always thought humans were ordinary, even flawed, compared to an advanced alien civilization. And yet here he was, a human, standing in the middle of a prophecy that suggested humanity could change the fate of an entire world. Do you understand now why you were chosen? Sorelith asked gently. Evan shook his head slowly. Not fully, but I think I understand a little. You believe in me, even though I only spoke by accident. Sorelith smiled faintly. It is not just your words. It is your honesty, your willingness to act, and your heart. Those are what matter. That is what the prophecy values. Suddenly, an alert sounded throughout the hall. Floating symbols blinked red, showing a region far beyond Vilithara. The star map displayed a swirling mass of energy moving rapidly through the sector. Evan's heart raced. "What is that?" he asked. "The Veilstorm," Soralith said grimly. "A cosmic phenomenon that destabilizes space travel and communication. It has been growing stronger over the last cycles. Our people fear it could destroy the trade routes and endanger entire worlds. Many have tried to understand it, but none could find the source or the solution." Evan stared at the swirling mass of energy. "And the prophecy?" "The prophecy says that someone from beyond Vilithara can see what we cannot. Someone unbound by tradition, unafraid to think differently. That is why I asked you to come here today," Soralith explained. Evan felt a strange weight settle on his shoulders. The accidental words he had spoken yesterday suddenly seemed like the beginning of something much bigger. "So you want me to help?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. "I do," Soralith said. "But it will not be easy. There are dangers, uncertainties, and choices that could affect many lives. Are you willing to try?" Evan hesitated. He thought of Earth, his family, his colleagues. He thought of the human mission to Vilithara and the trust placed in him. And most of all, he thought of the princess who had whispered at last, a word that now felt heavier and more meaningful than he could explain. I will try," he said finally, his voice steadying. Soralith's expression softened. "Good, that is all I ask for now. We will begin the preparations. For the prophecy to be fulfilled, we must move carefully, but we must move soon." As Evan left the Hall of Records, he could feel the city around him differently. Vilithara's beauty was no longer just impressive, it was purposeful. The towers, the crystal streets, even the wind seemed to guide him towards something unknown, something greater. He realized that he was not only a visitor in this world, but a participant in its history. That evening, Evan stood on the balcony of the delegation quarters, watching the twin moons rise over the crystal city. The wind brushed against his face, carrying the faint scent of honey and rain. He thought of Soralith, of the prophecy, and of the task ahead. "I hope I can do this," he whispered to himself. "I hope I am enough." Somewhere in the palace, Soralith watched the sky as well. Her thoughts on Evan. She had waited for someone like him for a long time, someone who could act with honesty, courage, and a heart unafraid to speak truth. And now, at last, that moment had arrived. Evan did not yet know it, but the adventure of a lifetime was beginning. A path that would take him beyond Vilithara, into the stars, and into the heart of a prophecy older than he could imagine. And in that moment, under the light of alien moons and alien skies, two worlds, human and Aurelian, began to move toward each other, drawn by destiny, curiosity, and the courage of one human who had spoken from the heart. The following days passed in a blur of preparation and observation. Evan Hale worked closely with Princess Soralith in the Hall of Records, studying star maps, ancient writings, and projections of the Vilitharan sector. Every day brought new discoveries and new questions. He had expected a simple diplomatic mission, but instead, he found himself at the center of an unfolding mystery, one that could change the fate of an entire world. Soralith had begun to trust him more openly. She explained Aurelian history, the rules of their society, and the delicate balance they maintained with nearby star systems. She also revealed something Evan had not anticipated. The Aurelians had long been aware of humanity, watching from a distance for generations. "You humans," Soralith said one evening as they studied a star map, "have qualities that our people admire but rarely possess ourselves. Your resilience, your creativity, your ability to act even when you do not know the outcome it is. Rare." Evan frowned. "I don't feel special. I just try to do what I can." Soralith smiled softly. "That is why you are special. You do not seek glory or recognition. You act because it is necessary. That is the difference." As they worked, a series of unusual energy readings appeared on the star map. The Veilstorm, the cosmic phenomenon they had been warned about, was spreading faster than expected. Large swirls of unstable energy moved across previously safe star routes. Trade and communication channels were becoming unpredictable, and travelers risked getting lost in sudden, violent shifts of space itself. "This is worse than we feared," said Valen, observing the map alongside them. His delicate hands traced the lines of the storms. "The Veil storm grows stronger every cycle. If it continues, it may reach Vilithara's orbit within weeks." Evan stared at the glowing swirls of energy, his heart pounding. "Is there any way to stop it?" Sorelli shook her head. "We do not know. Our scholars have tried for centuries to understand it, but the Veil storm defies our methods. We need an outsider's perspective." She looked at Evan, her eyes steady. "That is why I asked you to come here. We believe you may see patterns that we cannot. We need your help to find the source and, if possible, a way to stop it." Evan took a deep breath. The weight of the task pressed on him, heavier than he had imagined. He had trained in languages and human logic, not cosmic anomalies or alien star systems. Yet, he could not deny the spark of excitement and determination that surged through him. He had been given a chance to do something meaningful, and he would not turn away. "I'll do it," he said firmly. "I'll help." Sorelli's expression softened, a faint smile on her lips. "Good. That is all I ask." Over the next several days, Evan and Sorelli worked tirelessly. They examined ancient star maps, compared historical data, and analyzed patterns of cosmic events. Evan's human perspective proved valuable. He noticed small details in the Veil storm's movement that the Aurelians had overlooked. Little shifts in the energy currents, the way the storm interacted with nearby celestial objects, and the subtle patterns in its growth. These clues hinted at a possible origin. One evening, as they pored over a three-dimensional projection of the storm, Sorelli paused. "Look there," she said, pointing to a faint, pulsating point far beyond known space. "That energy signature. It appears to be the source, but it is too dangerous for any Aurelian to approach." Evan leaned closer, squinting at the glowing point. "We'll have to go there," he said. His mind raced. "I can analyze it from here, but we may need to take measurements up close." Sorelli's expression grew serious. "Yes, but I cannot go myself. My body cannot survive the conditions near the source. We will need someone who is not bound by Aurelian biology. You, Evan, may be the only option." Evan felt a shiver of fear and anticipation. The thought of venturing into a dangerous, unstable region of space was terrifying. Yet, he also felt a strange thrill. He had never faced such a challenge before, and now the task had fallen into his hands. "I understand," he said finally. "I'll do it, whatever it takes." The next morning, preparations began. The Aurelians provided him with a specialized suit, capable of withstanding extreme energy fluctuations. The ship he would use was reinforced with advanced shielding and equipped with instruments designed to measure and record the storm's properties. Evan trained briefly with the ship's controls, but much of the journey would depend on intuition, observation, and careful decision-making. As the departure approached, Sorelli and Evan spent a quiet moment together in the Hall of Records. The room was filled with soft, glowing light, and the projections of distant stars shifted slowly above them. "Evan," Sorelli said softly, "do not underestimate yourself. You may feel small compared to the task, but you carry the hope of more than one world. We believe in you." Evan nodded, his throat tight. "I'll try not to fail." "You will not fail," Sorelli said firmly. "Remember the words you spoke, the truth in them. That is the strength you bring. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to act despite it." Her words resonated deeply within him. For the first time, Evan felt a clarity he had never known. This was no longer just a mission, it was a test of resolve, creativity, and heart. And he realized that the princess's quiet faith in him gave him the courage to act. The day of departure arrived. The ship hovered near the city's orbit, gleaming under Vilithara's twin moons. Valen assisted with final preparations, his delicate hands checking every instrument. Sorelli stood nearby, her expression calm but intense, watching Evan as he climbed into the ship. "May your journey be guided by insight and courage," she said, her voice steady. Evan smiled faintly. though his heart was pounding. "Thank you, Princess. I won't let you down." The engines hummed to life, and the ship lifted gently into space. As Villathar's crystal towers receded behind him, Evan felt a mixture of awe, fear, and determination. The Veilstorm lay ahead, a vast, swirling thread of cosmic energy that could destroy anything in its path. But he also felt a spark of hope. He carried the knowledge, guidance, and faith of the Aurelians with him, and he had the courage of humanity inside him. Hours passed as he navigated through the outer sectors, the storm slowly growing larger and more chaotic on the ship's instruments. Evan carefully recorded every reading, noting the irregular patterns, sudden bursts of energy, and areas of relative calm. Slowly, a picture began to emerge, a pattern in the chaos that no Aurelian had identified before. Evan realized that the storm was not entirely random. There were subtle repetitions in its movements, faint signals that suggested an underlying structure. His mind raced as he analyzed the data, connecting the dots and predicting the storm's shifts with increasing accuracy. This could work, he whispered to himself. I can stabilize it, maybe even stop it. As the ship approached the heart of the Veilstorm, the energy fluctuations grew more intense. The instruments beeped rapidly, warning of dangerous radiation levels. Evan adjusted the shields and recalibrated the sensors, his hand steady despite the growing tension. Then, a sudden surge of energy rocked the ship. Lights flickered, alarms blared, and Evan gritted his teeth. He focused, using everything he had learned to keep the ship stable. The storm's power was overwhelming, but he noticed the same patterns he had seen before, repetitions in the energy flow that could be manipulated for hours. He worked, carefully guiding the ship, taking measurements and adjusting the energy fields. Slowly, the storm began to respond. The chaotic swirls stabilized into predictable currents. Evan's heart raced with exhilaration. He was seeing something incredible, something that could change the fate of the entire sector. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the storm began to calm. The instruments showed a stable pattern, no longer threatening nearby systems. Evan leaned back, exhausted but triumphant. He had done it. With careful observation, courage, and a human perspective unbound by tradition, he had stabilized the Veilstorm. As the ship floated in the calm space, Evan allowed himself a small smile. He had faced fear, uncertainty, and cosmic chaos, and he had prevailed. Yet, even in this moment of triumph, he knew the journey was not over. Villathar awaited, and with it, questions, challenges, and a destiny he had only begun to understand, somewhere far behind. Princess Aurelith watched the skies, sensing the change. Her heart swelled with a mixture of pride and relief. The prophecy was moving forward, and the human who had stumbled into her life by accident had proven himself capable of extraordinary things. Evan's journey into the Veilstorm had not only stabilized the cosmic thread, it had revealed the potential of human courage, creativity, and insight. And in that quiet, infinite expanse of space, two worlds were connected more deeply than ever before, linked by trust, destiny, and the actions of one accidental hero. The victory over the Veilstorm had been celebrated across Villathara, but the celebrations were short-lived. The analysis of the storm had revealed a disturbing truth. While Evan had stabilized the immediate threat, the source of the Veilstorm, the luminous rift, remained unstable. If left unchecked, it could erupt again, this time with consequences far worse than before. In the Hall of Records, Soralith and Evan studied the projections together. The rift appeared as a swirling, radiant mass at the edge of known space, its energies unstable and unpredictable. Surrounding star systems showed early signs of disruption. Trade routes, communication networks, and even orbital patterns of nearby planets were at risk. This is worse than we imagined, Soralith said quietly, her eyes fixed on the holographic display. The Veilstorm will not remain contained unless we address the rift itself. But no Aurelian can survive near its core. The energy alone is lethal. Evan frowned, leaning closer to the projections. Then, someone has to go there. Me? Soralith looked at him steadily. Yes, the prophecy mentions someone unbound by Aurelian limits. Your human physiology, your ability to think differently. may allow you to enter the rift safely at least for long enough to gather the data we need to stabilize it permanently. Evan felt the weight of her words pressing down on him. The idea of venturing into an unknown, unstable cosmic region was terrifying. He had faced the Veilstorm, but the rift was a different challenge, entirely raw energy, unpredictable forces, and unknown dangers. I don't know if I can do it, he admitted. What if I fail? Soralith placed her hand lightly on his arm. You have already proven yourself, Evan. Stabilizing the Veilstorm was not easy, but you did it. You saw patterns we could not. You acted when others hesitated. That is why I trust you. Valen stepped forward, his expression serious. The Council will need to approve this expedition. They may not accept the risk, even if the prophecy is considered. Later that day, the human delegation and Aurelian Council convened in the Grand Chamber. The Council elders, tall and luminous, sat in a semicircle, observing Evan carefully. Whispers filled the room as they discussed the mission in their melodic language. Translation devices converted the words for Evan, but the tone and weight of the Council's concern were unmistakable. We cannot risk the life of a human on this mission, one elder said, his voice resonating with authority. Even if the prophecy suggests it, the rift's energy is unpredictable. Soralith rose to speak, her presence commanding attention. The prophecy is clear. Only one from beyond our world can approach the rift. We have no other choice. This human, Evan Hale, has already demonstrated the courage and insight necessary to face this danger. He will be guided, supported, and equipped, and he will succeed, the Council murmured. Some appeared hesitant, while others seemed swayed by Soralith's certainty. After tense moments, a decision was made. The expedition would proceed, but only under strict monitoring and with full support from Aurelian technology. Evan spent the evening preparing. The Aurelians provided him with a specialized suit, capable of withstanding the rift's extreme energy fluctuations. The ship was upgraded with additional shielding and automated stabilizers. Advanced instruments would help him measure and redirect energy flows to prevent catastrophe. As he worked, Soralith joined him in the preparation room. Evan, she said softly, I want you to know, whatever happens, you carry the hopes of both our worlds. You are not alone. Evan looked at her, heart pounding. I feel like I'm carrying too much. You are carrying the right kind of responsibility. Soralith said gently, and you will not fail. Trust yourself. The next morning, the ship hovered above Vilithara's city. The twin moons cast long shadows on the crystalline towers. Valen and the crew performed final checks. Soralith approached, her expression calm but intense. May your journey bring light and hope, she said, placing her hand briefly on the ship's hull. Return to us safely. Evan nodded, swallowing the knot of fear in his throat. I will do my best. The engines roared, lifting the ship into space. Vilithara's glittering city faded beneath him, replaced by the infinite darkness of the sector beyond. The rift awaited a luminous, swirling expanse at the edge of known space, radiating energy that made the instruments vibrate and blink warnings. Hours passed as Evan approached the rift. He monitored energy fluctuations, carefully navigating around unstable currents. The further he went, the more intense the environment became. Instruments registered unusual readings, gravity anomalies, and bursts of energy that threatened to damage the ship. Evan focused, remembering Soralith's words, courage is acting despite fear. He adjusted the shields, redirected energy flows, and used his observations to anticipate the storm's movements. Slowly, patterns emerged, a rhythm in the chaos that he could follow. This is it, he whispered to himself. If I can reach the core, maybe I can stabilize it. As he moved closer, the rift's energy pulses grew stronger. The ship rocked violently, alarms blaring. Evan gritted his teeth, maneuvering through the unpredictable currents. A bright surge of energy nearly knocked him off course, but his quick thinking allowed him to adjust the shields and survive the impact. Finally, he reached the core. The luminous energy was overwhelming, filling the ship with blinding light. Evan activated the instruments, measuring the flows and analyzing the source of the instability. He realized that the rift's energy could be redirected using the precise alignment of nearby stars. and artificial energy channels provided by his ship's equipment. Hours passed in intense focus. Evan recalibrated the instruments, stabilized the energy currents, and made careful adjustments to prevent a collapse. His heart pounded, but his mind remained steady, guided by observation and instinct. Slowly, the rift began to stabilize, the violent pulses subsiding into a controlled, radiant glow. Evan allowed himself a brief sigh of relief. He had done it. The core was stable, and the energy no longer posed a threat to surrounding systems. His success would save countless lives and secure the trade and communication routes across the sector. Yet, even in triumph, Evan knew the danger was not completely gone. He still needed to return safely, navigating through the rift's outer currents without triggering another surge. Carefully, he guided the ship back through the swirling edges, using everything he had learned to predict and respond to energy fluctuations. When he finally emerged from the rift, the vastness of space stretched calmly before him. Vilithara was a distant, glittering jewel in the darkness. Relief and exhaustion washed over him, but there was also a sense of accomplishment unlike anything he had experienced before. Back at Vilithara, the Council and Sir Aelith watched the readings from afar. The instruments confirmed what Evan had done. The rift was stabilized, its energy flowing safely and predictably. A collective sense of awe and gratitude filled the chamber. Sir Aelith turned to the human delegation, her eyes bright with emotion. He has succeeded. The prophecy has been honored, not by fearlessness, but by courage, insight, and honesty. Evan landed the ship and stepped onto the crystal platform. The Council and Sir Aelith approached, their expressions filled with respect and relief. Sir Aelith extended her hand. "You have done more than I could have imagined," she said softly. "You have proven that courage and wisdom do not belong to one world alone." Evan smiled, exhausted but happy. I just did what I could." Sir Aelith's gaze softened. "And that was enough, more than enough." As the celebrations began, Evan realized something important. He had faced fear, uncertainty, and cosmic chaos and survived. But the journey had also brought him closer to understanding the bond between humans and our aliens. Two worlds, once distant, were now connected through trust, courage, and shared destiny. Later, under the glow of Vilithara's twin moons, Evan and Sir Aelith walked together along the crystalline terraces of the palace. The wind carried a gentle fragrance of rain and honey, and the city below shimmered like a living jewel. "You were amazing," Sir Aelith said softly. "I am proud of you." Evan looked at her, feeling a warmth in his chest. "I couldn't have done it without your guidance, and yet, it was your courage that made the difference," she replied. "Humanity has much to offer, Evan. Today, you showed it to the stars." Evan smiled, realizing that their journey was far from over. Challenges would come again, new mysteries would emerge, and the bond between their worlds would continue to grow. But for now, he allowed himself to feel proud, hopeful, and connected to something greater than himself. Under Vilithara's glowing moons, two worlds, human and Aurelian, celebrated not only survival, but the power of trust, courage, and shared destiny. And Evan knew, deep in his heart, that whatever the future held, they would face it together. The days following the stabilization of the luminous rift were filled with celebration, reflection, and quiet anticipation. Vilithara's skies shone brighter than ever, the city's crystal towers reflecting light in 1,000 hues, as if the planet itself rejoiced. But for Evan Hale, the human linguist who had stumbled into prophecy, the work was far from over. Even after successfully navigating the rift, he still felt the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. There were reports of minor energy fluctuations in neighboring sectors, the aftereffects of the rift's long instability. Though the immediate danger had passed, it was clear that vigilance and understanding would be necessary to prevent another catastrophe. Sir Aelith met him in the Hall of Records, her calm presence grounding him. "You've done remarkably well," she said, her eyes warm but serious. "The rift is stable, but our work is not finished. The universe has many surprises, and our alliance with humanity is only beginning." Evan nodded, exhausted but determined. "I understand. I'll help in any way I can." The Hall of Records buzzed with activity as Aurelians worked alongside humans to analyze data, repair damaged systems, and strengthen interstellar communications. Scholars exchanged ideas, translating and sharing knowledge across species. It was a time of learning, collaboration, and discovery. For Evan, it was astonishing to witness the civilizations working together so seamlessly. In the evenings, he often found himself walking with Siralith along the terraces of the palace. The crystal floors glimmered under Vilithar's twin moons, and the wind carried the faint scent of honey and rain. Their conversations drifted from technical matters to stories of Earth and Vilithara, and slowly, an unusual connection began to grow between them. Evan, Siralith said one night, looking up at the stars, "You have changed many things with your courage. You have shown my people that there is value in seeing the world differently, in acting with honesty and heart." Evan smiled faintly. "I only did what I could, but it's amazing to see what your people can do, too. I never imagined I'd be part of something like this." Siralith's eyes reflected the starlight. "And yet you were part of it. You are human, but you have made a difference that will echo through generations." As the days turned into weeks, the human delegation worked closely with the Aurelians to strengthen their systems against future cosmic threats. Evan continued to serve as a bridge, translating not just words but ideas, helping both civilizations understand each other in ways that went beyond language. The trust he had earned from Siralith and the Aurelian Council grew stronger every day. One morning, an urgent message arrived. A minor energy spike had been detected in a distant sector. While not immediately dangerous, it required careful attention to prevent escalation. Evan prepared to analyze the readings when Siralith appeared at his side. "Do you want me to handle it?" she asked. Evan shook his head. "No, I need to do this. I've learned a lot since the rift. I think I can help here too." Siralith studied him for a moment, a smile forming. "Very well, I trust your judgment." As Evan examined the readings, he realized the pattern was similar to the early stages of the Veilstorm, a small but noticeable disturbance that, if left unchecked, could grow. Using the methods he had learned and refined while navigating the rift, he carefully stabilized the energy currents, preventing the disturbance from growing. When he reported the success, Siralith's expression lit up with pride. "You see, Evan, even small actions can have a great impact. You have not only fulfilled prophecy, you have shown that courage, honesty, and intelligence can change the course of history." That evening, a grand ceremony was held to honor Evan and the human delegation. The city's crystal towers shone brighter than ever, and Aurelians from every district gathered to celebrate. Valen, the delicate translator who had first introduced Evan to the Hall of Records, stood proudly by his side. Siralith approached Evan, her steps graceful and measured. "You have done what few could imagine," she said softly. "Today, we celebrate not only the stabilization of the rift, but the alliance between our worlds. And I celebrate your courage, your wisdom, and your heart." Evan felt warmth rise in his chest. "Thank you, Princess. But I couldn't have done any of this without your guidance." Siralith smiled faintly, and for a moment, the ceremony, the crowd, and the city seemed to fade. It was just the two of them, standing under the twin moons, the universe stretching infinitely around them. "You have brought hope," Siralith said quietly, her voice carrying a depth of emotion Evan had not heard before. "Hope not just for Vilithara, but for all the stars that will be connected to us through this alliance. And for me, I have waited for someone who could act with honesty and courage. At last, you are here." Evan blinked, struck by the weight of her words. He remembered the first time he had heard her whisper at last, and now, standing under the moons with the universe around them, he understood. It was not about admiration or fear, it was about hope, trust, and a bond that transcended worlds. I don't know what to say," he admitted, his voice quiet. "Say nothing," Siralith replied, a gentle smile on her lips. "Just know that you have changed more than a single world. You have reminded us that courage and heart matter, no matter where you come from." The ceremony concluded with music, light displays, and words of gratitude from the council and citizens alike. Evan felt a mixture of exhaustion, relief, and pride. For the first time in his life, he truly understood the impact a single individual could have, not just through skill or knowledge, but through honesty, courage, and heart. As the celebrations wound down, Evan and Siralith walked once more along the crystal terraces. The air was cool, and the twin moons reflected on the polished surface beneath their feet. "Do you think this is the beginning of something new?" Evan asked. Siralith nodded. "Yes, not just an alliance between humans and Aurelians, but a partnership, a friendship, a shared destiny. We have faced danger, and we have learned from each other, and there is much more to come." Evan looked at her, feeling a warmth he had never experienced before. "I never imagined I would be part of something like this, or that I would mean this much to anyone." Siralith's eyes softened, and she placed her hand gently on his arm. "You mean more than you know. You have reminded us that even small actions, spoken from the heart, can shape the future. At last, we are connected." The words echoed in Evan's mind, the same words she had whispered when he had blurted out his accidental confession. At last, now they carried not just destiny, but understanding, hope, and a bridge between worlds. In the following days, Evan continued to work alongside Siralith, Valen, and the Aurelians. Together, they strengthened the sector's defenses, shared knowledge, and developed new systems of collaboration. The humans learned from the Aurelians' advanced technology, while the Aurelians gained insight from human creativity and perspective. Evan often paused to look at the stars, remembering Earth, his family, and the life he had left behind. Yet he no longer felt torn. He belonged to two worlds now, both with hopes, challenges, and futures intertwined. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the crystalline towers, Evan found a quiet spot on the palace terraces. Siralith joined him, and they stood in comfortable silence, watching the moon's reflection on the polished crystal below. "You have done well, Evan," Siralith said softly. "You have given my people hope, and you have given me a reminder that courage and heart are what truly matter." Evan smiled, feeling a calm strength within him. "Thank you, Princess. I couldn't have done it without your trust and guidance." Siralith's eyes glimmered. "At last, the future is bright, not just for Vilithara, but for all who look to the stars with hope. And you, Evan, are part of that future." Evan looked up at the sky, the vast expanse of stars stretching infinitely above. He realized that the adventure was far from over. There would be new challenges, new mysteries, and new discoveries. But now, he faced them not as a lone human, but as part of a partnership that spanned worlds, united by courage, honesty, and heart. And in that moment, under the light of alien moons and glittering stars, Evan felt a deep and lasting truth. Some words, spoken with honesty and heart, could change everything. And some moments, however accidental they seemed at first, could echo across the stars forever. At last, the universe felt wide, bright, and full of possibilities.